So, as the Formula One logo reforms itself, something that Formula One does every fortnight with great success, it means that there's 5 minutes to go to the start of the Austrian Grand Prix of 1999. Very handy little circuit this. It's very different, as you heard from Jim Rosenthal earlier on, from the old Österreich ring. This has been renamed the A1 ring. But a lot of the features of the old one are still here as you look down on it. See the first corner, the right-hander, which leads up to that one, and the top left corner, which is called the Remus curve. And then just to the right of that figure 1 at the top is the reformulated Bosch curve, which they now call the Gerser curve, and so on back again. Now, the fastest lap we've ever had here was David Coulthard at some 132 miles an hour. But it's a course, Martin, as you well know, that it can be a real car breaker. And we've had a lot of people go off in practicing and qualifying. Fisichella has been off 11 times this week, and I think Damon has been off about 8. I've seen him go off 8. So the people who finished today are going to do well.
What we've seen is drivers that are able to stay on the racing line have been fine, but as soon as they put almost half a tyre over onto the grey area, they're just sliding straight off the road and through the grass. There's really no margin for error whatsoever. And about an hour ago, I drove an old-timer Mercedes around here, and it just reminded me again just how tight that last corner is, where so many cars have been sliding off the road. It's quite a difficult racetrack. There's no big corners to really test the men from the boys, but you have to be very precise on it. It's the 3rd highest average speed of the year. Overall, it's a fast circuit, not because of ultimate top speed, but because there's a lot of straights and fairly simple corners. It's not the most challenging circuit in the world. The old one used to be just absolutely sensational that I used to race on. I've never raced on this one, and I have to say I don't miss it much. What it tends to do, though, Murray, is give us a good Grand Prix, especially as it's a slow corner into the pit straight, and the cars are able to follow each other without this dreaded understeer that puts them wide on the faster corners.
Certainly gave us a cracker last year with McLaren doing the double, Mika Häkkinen winning from David Coulthard by 5 seconds. Michael Schumacher storming his way up through the field from last after he'd gone off. David Coulthard storming his way up through the field from last to finish second, and he actually led part of the way after he'd had a collision at the beginning of the race. So there's always an exciting race at the A1 ring in Austria, and I don't expect this one to be any exception.
Zanardi there in 14th place, you just saw on your screen. He's the only car in the field on the hard tyres, which is a very strange decision, to say the least. And they're even trying iron brakes on it. Poor old Alessandro is just not able to hook that Williams up. And to compound it, Ralf Schumacher in the sister car doing such a brilliant job so far this year.
Yeah, Zanardi, the double champion of America, was 22nd and last in the warm-up this morning. And as you've heard, he's starting 14th on the grid. But the Supertech engine that is in the Benetton, amongst other teams, and in the Williams, is going extremely well here. Fisichella was by far the fastest on the straight in the Benetton yesterday, faster than the McLarens, faster than the Ferraris, probably because he has very little downforce, very small rear wing.
That right-hand side of the grid is very much here off the racing line. And I know Coulthard got together with Frentzen. They're 2nd and 4th on the grid, therefore starting on the right of the grid. And every time they came out of the last corner, they swept across and running over the grid hatches down that side to try and lift some of the dust off. And I just stood on David's start grid slot, and it's actually reasonably clean and quite a lot of rubber down from starts from other races. So they are going to be hampered a little bit on the inside, but maybe not quite as much as it could have been if they hadn't done a bit of work on it. But Coulthard going well, Frentzen going well just behind him, 2nd and 4th, and Johnny Herbert having a fantastic weekend. Just spoke to him on the grid and said, well, you're really hooked up, Johnny. Why is it going so much better? And he said, they've changed something in the back of the car, and I'm just happier driving the car. And I said, well, what, is it geometry or something? He said, I can't tell you, but it really helped me a lot.
And Neil Ressler, the top man of Ford on the competition side worldwide, is here to see Barrichello, who's starting 4th, Herbert, who is starting 5th, as we ride with the Benetton.
I think they're all away.
And we're going up to the first corner, round Castrol Curve. Now, there's quite a bit of gradient. If you walk round this track, you know all about it. We're at the highest point here, seeing Mika Häkkinen, followed by David Coulthard, Eddie Irvine, and the yellow car is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who we are riding with now. And there's a lot of cars gone off there. That's where Schumacher and Coulthard collided in the past. Along the top straight, back again with Fisichella in the Benetton. Wurz, I'm sorry, it's Alexander Wurz chasing Ralf Schumacher's car, chasing in a fairly pedestrian way by Formula One standards, because this, of course, is not the race. This is the formation lap as they go round the left-hander at the Lauda curve, and then the renamed Gerhard Berger curve, which used to be called the Powerhouse curves. They seem to change the names on these corners every year here. And then the course starts to climb again up towards the Jochen Rindt curve. You saw heard Martin talking us round it earlier. Pretty tricky corner.
Yes, they changed the names because a lot of these are commercial names, sponsored corners, and obviously as the sponsors drop out, the names change, which is sort of a little bit too commercial for my liking. But that's a sort of a decent area of the track that are in now, as you just said, Murray, the Jochen Rindt curve. Cars are coming through there very, very fast, all loaded at about 150 miles an hour, and then they face this downhill, off camber, small last corner, and that's where they're just getting all out of shape on the way in, and nowhere to go on the exit, and a key corner in the race, no doubt about it.
Which has been changed a lot, even since the British Grand Prix, when it went so much better, and he's on the tail of Jacques Villeneuve. And there is the McLaren storming David Coulthard, race leader, by far the fastest man on the track, and he's now leading Barrichello by 4 seconds.
Yes, Coulthard enjoying leading this Grand Prix. I'm not quite so sure he'll be enjoying his meeting with Ron Dennis when the race is over. I wouldn't want to be his manager.
Yes, because it's always difficult to ascribe blame, but it was David Coulthard coming up the inside of Mika Häkkinen and hitting Mika's rear wheel that took the lead McLaren, the World Championship leader. And if Mika Häkkinen does not score points in this race, one man is going to be delighted, and that's Michael Schumacher, of course, who's watching this race in his home in Geneva.
Häkkinen already up to 16th, Murray. Häkkinen steaming through. Remember, Coulthard started last year and came steaming through the field. Häkkinen's car is more...
He'll be past Takagi very quickly, and De La Rosa, and then up with Damon Hill, who is 13th. So there is Mika Häkkinen behind Takagi and De La Rosa, who are 14th and 15th respectively. So Mika Häkkinen, world champion, car number 1, the McLaren, slicing his way through the field, and David Coulthard is taking advantage of this. He's put up another fastest lap, and he leads now by 5.3 seconds. Watch Mika Häkkinen coming up behind the Arrows-engined Arrows. Only 2 teams have their own engines, Ferrari and Arrows. And over down towards the Jochen Rindt curve comes Mika Häkkinen. Now, is Takagi going to let him through?
I think Häkkinen will have more than enough.
And meantime, David Coulthard is yet another second ahead of Rubens Barrichello on lap 6. He's 6.4 seconds ahead of the Stewart. So Coulthard is pulling away at the rate of a second a lap. And even if Häkkinen does get through the field, he's going to have to really fly to catch his teammate. Right, mind you, no team orders. There is Badoer, and he's about to be lapped already by David Coulthard. Said Salo will be better under pressure than Badoer.
Johnny Herbert back in the race 4 laps down. That's how long it takes, because it's mounted on the gearbox very rigidly. A lot of load goes through the rear wing of a Formula One car. They can't just throw them on. It's different to the front wing. The front wing is mounted to the nose box, and it's very easy to replace that. The rear wing is far more complicated to change. And Häkkinen has taken the 2 Arrows, look, Murray.
Yeah, and you saw Damon Hill, who's got Mika Häkkinen behind him now. And Damon Hill has dropped from 11th on the grid to 13th in the race as a result of that schmozzle at the beginning of it. And he'll see Mika Häkkinen in his mirrors. Is he going to move over and let him through? I think not. But on lap 7, which is 1/10 race distance, David Coulthard leads by 7 seconds. Rubens Barrichello has got Eddie Irvine behind him, right behind him, 4/10 of a second behind him. Frentzen is 4th. Villeneuve in the BAR is 5th. and he has yet to finish a Grand Prix in 1999. Ralf Schumacher is 6th, Deniz is 7th, Fisichella is 9th, 8th, Zonta is 9th, and Alex Wurz is in 10th position. So here come Barrichello 2nd, Irvine 3rd, Heinz-Harald 4th. Look at the gap and you see
Häkkinen, Salo running into the back of Herbert.
And Häkkinen just has to sit there helplessly and let them all stream through. Mika Salo, by the way, is not doing the same thing as Mika Häkkinen and streaming through the field. He's in 19th position. He hasn't made up any places since he came back. We'll be back shortly. We're going for a break. Lap 15 of the Austrian Grand Prix, and there is Heinz-Harald Frentzen still in 4th position as we join him as he goes into his 15th lap. That's Rubens Barrichello 2nd, Eddie Irvine. You can see the gaps between them, and Irvine is pulling away from Frentzen, but he is also losing ground to Rubens. Is 3 seconds ahead of Eddie Irvine. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is still 4th. Then we have Mika Häkkinen in 5th place, who's got ahead of John Alesi, and Pedro Deniz in 7th place.
Yeah, Häkkinen will be mighty relieved to see those two going in the pits, because again, I'd be very surprised if Häkkinen's not on a one-stopper, so that helps him enormously.
Out goes Jean Alesi after an 8.1 second to be exact, stop. That's Pedro Deniz dropping back onto the wheels. He came in earlier, and you remember his pit stop was 9.9 seconds, and the fuel flap is still up. It will go down when he changes gear into 2nd gear.
Yes, or when he flips off the pit lane limiter. Do be very careful up there.
I cannot understand what is happening to Mika Salo in the other Ferrari. I wish we could see him. He's still lumbering along, comparatively speaking, in 19th position. He still hasn't got ahead of Olivier Panis. He's lapping in 1 minute 15.6, which is 2 seconds slower than David Coulthard. There must be, I suspect, something amiss with the Ferrari, and that's Tora Takagi in the Arrows, retiring from the Austrian Grand Prix from 15th place.
Yes, well out of harm's way there too, and he's even on a little slip road, look, so they can get, as long as you don't let it roll down the hill too far, they can get that car out of the way quite quickly. He held Coulthard up a little bit, the race leader, had to go around the outside of him as he was coasting. And meanwhile, we're looking at Rubens Barrichello in a strong second place.
And Damon Hill has got to the top 10 in the Jordan. He has yet to stop, of course. And we're leaving Austria for a little while. Be back soon after the break. In lap times between Häkkinen, who is fourth, and Irvine, who is third, is 1.1 seconds. Häkkinen is catching the Ferrari at the rate of 1.1 seconds, but it's 17 seconds ahead of him.
Yes, look at that little dot in the distance as we're on board with Heinz-Harald Frentzen. That's Häkkinen who's just passed him. That gives you an idea of the pace of Mika Häkkinen. That's a back marker that Häkkinen's coming up on now. So his next target, his next victim will be Eddie Irvine, 17 seconds down the road. Now, these are critical laps for Mika Häkkinen. He needs to clear these back markers quickly.
Absolutely, and we've lost, I haven't mentioned the fact that Rubens Barrichello is closing down the gap between himself and race leader David Coulthard. It was some 13 seconds, it's now 10.3 seconds.
I think Villeneuve's out of the race, Murray. I don't think he's going to score that point you were talking about, because Villeneuve coasting down the pit lane, and that was Irvine's board telling him he's 17.4 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen. Irvine's gently closing down Barrichello in second place.
Yeah, you're right. Villeneuve is down to 12th position, and this looks as though it's going to be his 9th retirement from 9 races for the new team. And Mika Häkkinen now goes faster than anybody went last year. 1 minute 12.7. A very disappointed Jacques Villeneuve walks past Rick Gorn, one of the top people at Reynard, and not a word is exchanged between the two of them.
Yes, he hasn't, as you've said before, Murray, hasn't seen the end of a motor race this year, and we're, a long way into the season. And
they start with several on the visor in front of them, and there is Eddie, there is Sarlo, there is Coulthard. So Sarlo in the second Ferrari is now 14th, and this is Marc Genet in the Minardi.
Yes, I'm sure Sarlo will be not maybe verbally under instruction, but probably morally under instruction to not make life any easier than he has to for that McLaren that's about to lap him, but strictly speaking, he should jump out of the way when the blue flags start waving, but let's see if that happens.
Yeah, if they get 3 blue flags, they're in trouble. The blue flag means there's someone faster coming up behind you. Give way to him, and Mika Häkkinen has broken the record yet again. 1 minute 12.6 to the nearest 10th. He's going faster and faster. As Martin said, you are seeing a true world champion at work. Watch him close up on and take Mika Salo as Zanardi retires in the Williams. Well, this has turned out to be a terrible return to Formula One 1999 for Alex Zanardi.
Yes, you put your hand up like that, but the driver coming up behind can't see you. There's all the monocoques in the way, not to mention the myriad of elements in the rear wing, but you try your best.
He's seconds faster than Rubens Barrichello, as there is the Ferrari of Eddie Irvine, and Mika Häkkinen now is up into 3rd position, of course, having got past Heinz Harald Frentzen, but Häkkinen has yet to come in. Here he is.
Yes, Häkkinen actually ahead of Coulthard now because he hadn't stopped, so Häkkinen will be rather warily looking in his mirrors, I would think. David having made his pit stop, that means obviously you could clearly see Coulthard's a complete pit stop ahead of Häkkinen, but the pace Häkkinen is showing, he's going to catch David. David really needs to make these fresh tyres work and put on a bit of pace.
Häkkinen leads, Coulthard 2nd, Eddie Irvine in 3rd position. Heinz Harald Frentzen is 4th, Barrichello is 5th. Fisichella and Wurz are 6th and 7th. That's Pedro de la Rosa in the arrows. He's beached it well and truly. You can see the rear wheels are clear of the gravel, and the gravel, the flat bottom of the arrows, the mandatory flat bottom, is sitting on the gravel. Now, I can't see any reason why they shouldn't be able to remove that car. Ron Dennis standing with a board tyre on it, and in comes Häkkinen.
That's to show Häkkinen where to turn in roughly to his pit garage. So Häkkinen in from 2nd place on the racetrack. This will put him back out in 3rd place effectively. Irvine yet to stop, of course, and half a second quicker than Coulthard. So Häkkinen's still on his way, Murray.
Yeah, nearly a second faster, and Mika Häkkinen, it's a long pit lane here.
Yes, interestingly, Barrichello, of course, whilst he's running line astern there with Herbert a long way behind because of that rear wing change. So Häkkinen has rejoined the racetrack behind Barrichello.
And at the moment, as those pit stops are sorting themselves out, Eddie Irvine, who has yet to stop, and this is lap 41, is leading the race, leading the Austrian Grand Prix. But that pit stop, of course, that he's going to have to make will bring him down behind certainly Coulthard, probably, quite possibly, Mika Häkkinen as well. This is a quite incredible drive by the man you were just watching there, Mika Häkkinen. I remind you that he's come up from that lowly position, stormed his way through the field, and is now right up in the leading edge of the points as we watch race leader Eddie Irvine. Irvine's been lapping quite slower than both the McLarens during this race, and he's not going to be speeding up.
Yeah, he's been getting better and better, though, as the race is going on, and I think, yes, I can see the Ferrari mechanics out in the pit lane, so maybe Irvine will be in this lap, and then we'll see it all shake out. None of the main contenders for this race will stop again, certainly on schedule anyway.
There they are. Now it's all down to them, and Ferrari are very good indeed at the pit stops. They're not allowed to come out of the garage into the pit lane. That is Mika Salo, incidentally, in the Ferrari as Olivier Panis comes up. He has now got past Panis and is in 12th position coming into the pit lane.
Yes, so not Irvine, it's Salo they're choosing to bring in first. Salo, no chance of a point-scoring run in his first drive for Ferrari because of that front wing change. His first pit stop of the year first pit stop for Ferrari, of course. He has raced earlier this year with BAR, and a good stop there for Ferrari.
Martin, I think I'm going to have to eat my words. You are absolutely right. Eddie Irvine has just done his fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 13, just a few hundredths of a second faster than he had been before, but
Frentzen hasn't stopped yet, of course, either. So it's going to be Coulthard, Barrichello, Irvine, Frentzen, and Häkkinen nip and tuck.
Yeah, and at the present moment, Rubens Barrichello has got the edge on Mika Häkkinen. Then here is David Coulthard. That is the race leader. or is it Salo looking across the track?
I think it's Salo, isn't it?
It's Salo, yeah, it's Mika Salo. Just a flash of the blue helmet there on lap 43. And they certainly, I was very interested just before the race began. Ferrari had got Eddie Irvine right in the garage until the last possible moment, filling him up with fuel. So obviously theirs is a one-stop strategy and bring him in. And Eddie Irvine is fighting hard against David. And here they come down this track towards us. That's Irvine and Coulthard, first and second on lap 48. That's how close it is.
Yes, and let me just explain to you how Irvine ended up in the lead. They filled the car up on the start line, held him up in the beginning. He went to lap 44 of the 71-lap race, and his last 5 or 6 laps were absolutely blinding laps. Very, very fast. So while he was out on the track with low fuel, the tyres are lasting well here, he could really make up some ground. Coulthard, having a poor run through the traffic or whatever, did not do particularly good laps, and that has put Eddie Irvine, given him track position. Now he's chasing Salo, who's a lap down because of problems earlier in the race. But Salo's lapping at a similar pace.
Suddenly got his act together, Mika Salo. 1 minute 14.4, and Irvine lapping in 1 minute 14.5 in the last lap. Well, on the previous lap, Irvine notched away from Ricardo Zonta. And here is Barrichello in the white Stewart behind him. In 4th position, it's Mika Häkkinen. So again, Irvine, Coulthard very close together. Barrichello and Häkkinen, 3rd and 4th, you're looking at them now. They're 10 seconds ahead of Frentzen, who is 1 second ahead of Alesi. Place behind Eddie Irvine, lapping on that lap 2/10 of a second slower. And that was Jean Alesi out of the race in the Sauber from 6th position. Oh dear, poor old Jean, he drives brilliantly in race after race. Nobody tries harder or does better in a Sauber than he does, but he's out of the Austrian Grand Prix as Irvine comes towards us. And here's Häkkinen.
No, I think that's Coulthard. Salo lifting off and letting Coulthard through. Enough blue flags, I guess. Salo had been passed, so that's a key for Coulthard. And look out, it's a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
Häkkinen che transita sul traguardo, queste immagini.
minutes, I'm sure, to go before the end of the Austrian Grand Prix. And enough for today in Austria. That's enough for us for a little while. We're going away, but we'll be back for the rest of the race.
Giancarlo, difficile verificarlo. Andiamo a vedere intanto.
È un'uscita pericolosa per lui e fortunatamente il grande spazio di fuga gli consente di rientrare.
Race on in Austria. Irvine is being caught by Coulthard. There is Irvine. There is Coulthard. The gap is 2 seconds.
Yes, that's Hakkinen actually, and coming up to the back of Salo. Coulthard has definitely picked up his pace, just 2 seconds behind, as you say. And I don't think Eddie's got a particular problem. It's just David's suddenly really pushing the limit and lapping now quickest, realising he's got some repair work to do. He can win this race. He needs to win this race for his World Championship chances, and putting a bit of a spurt on, and hopefully we're going to see him come up behind. We're still watching Hakkinen and Salo. Hopefully we're going to see Coulthard coming up behind Irvine, and they're coming up to some traffic too. I think it's Damon Hill to lap them, so we could well see. So as we left you, Fisichella was just going off the road. He went across the grass and rejoined the track with no particular problems.
In 7th place, Pedro Diniz in 6th position, and Jarno Trulli in 8th place is right up with Fisichella as a result of the Italian going off the track. You're looking at Mika Hakkinen. He's lapping in 1 minute 13.9 compared with Eddie Irvine 1 minute 13.4. Now, while you were away during the break, I was telling our other viewers around the world in Australia, Canada, South Africa, that we've got a fascinating situation in the Constructors' World Championship, because Eddie Irvine is potentially, if he wins this race, scoring 10 World Championship Constructors points for Martin. What a race!
It was a cracking race, something flying around there. I think somebody throwing a firework over the fence, but well, Eddie Irvine's answered his critics. Didn't look very sparkling in qualifying, but that race strategy, and he made it stick. He drove the mid part of the race when it was absolutely crucial. He drove it very fast. Coulthard not fast enough, and that's why Irvine had track position. I think Coulthard had the faster car at the end, but Irvine was not going to buckle under that pressure. Frentzen goes over the line for 4th place, hand out of the window, more points for Jordan, and Wirtz on his home track, clean speed.
That's his best finish of the year. Alexander Wirtz finished 6th in Monaco, and he goes one better in his home country. But Eddie Irvine will be on a gigantic high, and rightly so. And I would love to read the Italian newspapers and the German newspapers tomorrow. They'll be full of praise for the man that they were condemning in the most vicious terms in today's papers. Eddie Irvine has proved them wrong. He's shown that Michael Schumacher is not the only man who could win for Ferrari. Irvine had already done it in Australia, but he had Michael Schumacher to contend with in that race. And sure enough, Häkkinen continues to lead the World Championship, but by only 2 points from Eddie Irvine. Michael Schumacher, of course, is still in third position, but only 3 points behind him is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who shows every sign to move into third position in the World Championship, just as Jordan are in third position in the Constructors' Championship. Coulthard is in fifth position, thanks to his... And Eddie Irvine, look at him! Who says that Eddie Irvine doesn't show any emotion? He's a very pragmatic chap, and he will probably be very straightforward in the drivers' conference. But Ross Brawn, there in the glasses, comes up behind him to say, well done. David Coulthard, a genuine sportsman, gives him a pat on the back to congratulate him. Mika Häkkinen walks into the garage, and Ross Brawn and Eddie Irvine, with the car, have won that race together.
Yes, they really did win the race. I remember earlier on in the year when he won in Melbourne, both McLarens and Michael Schumacher were out, and it was difficult to judge that win, but this one, he clearly won by himself on pace.
I make no bones about it, when Eddie Irvine qualified a second slower than Häkkinen, and then he went a second slower this morning. I didn't think he would be able to do this. It's been an absolutely inspired drive. But that decision, I think, of Ross Brawn's to bring him in as late as he did, what was it, the 45th lap, I think it was. Just ironically, let me establish that Johnny Herbert has just done, if it's not the fastest lap of the race, it's Johnny nearly the fastest lap of the race. Mika Häkkinen's done the fastest lap in 1 minute 12.1, and Johnny Herbert is only a few tenths quicker than that. In the closing stages, using the race as a test track, Johnny Herbert has gone round in 1 minute 12.6. If he could get reliability, he will be there. But Irvine had reliability, so did Coulthard, so did Häkkinen. As Martin has said, I would not like to be David Coulthard when he gets back to the motorhome. And Eddie Irvine, Mika Häkkinen, David Coulthard come out onto the podium. Let's see the body language of the faces of Coulthard and Häkkinen. There is Eddie Irvine. Oh, great, great, great race. And they know it in Austria. What thoughts are going through the minds of David Coulthard and Mika Häkkinen? One or other of them might have won the Austrian Grand Prix had they not had that coming together. But that is an irrelevant statement. Eddie Irvine did win it in the finest possible style. The longest national anthem in the world, the Italian national anthem for Ferrari, of course, and for Eddie Irvine. And Ferrari continue to lead the Constructors' Championship by 2 points now from McLaren. Jordan have increased their gap over Williams. Jordan in third place, Williams in fourth. Benetton have closed up on Williams. They're in fifth place, Benetton, and the Stewart team are sixth. And Ross Brawn has just taken the winning Constructors' Trophy from Mrs. Waltra Klasnik, who is the governor of Styria.
And Coulthard receiving the second place pop there, but Ross Brawn up on the podium. I think that's Ferrari acknowledging his brilliant strategies that seems to keep pulling something out of the bag. Hakkinen, a slightly grumpy looking Hakkinen, and understandably so, I think, taking third place.
But not taking the Drivers' Championship further away, as he had obviously hoped to do, as the champagne sprays in Austria. And we have more news from James Allen.
Yes, I'm actually standing down here. Ron Dennis is just looking at the computer screen. He has said he'll have a word with us. I'll just try and interrupt him. Ron, you said you have a quick word for us. First of all, your feelings on the incident on the first lap?
Well, we run the cars equally, and there's a part of motor racing. If you let them race each other, these things are going to happen. Obviously, it wasn't deliberate. Probably cost us the race win, but I'm not actually angry about it. It's, you know, we're here to win, and we've got two drivers capable of that. A little disappointed with the result, but that's because I like to win.
You'll be back, Ron. We know that. Thanks.
If you say so, Ron, we'll believe you, but he won't be very pleased. A wonderful victory for Eddie Irvine and Ferrari.
Thank you very much indeed, Murray. Thanks to Martin Brundle as well. A magnificent Austrian Grand Prix. We'll be hearing from the drivers in a few minutes' time. Rejoin us then.
Congratulations, gentlemen, the top three drivers in the Austrian Grand Prix 1999. Eddie Irvine, David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen. Eddie Irvine, you've beaten both the McLarens, which after yesterday's qualifying and today's warm-up seemed unlikely. Are you as surprised as the rest of us?
I'm surprised.
You won the race in the extra laps you were out on your first stint with some absolutely demon laps. Did you just go as fast as you could, or did you have a target of time to gain?
No, I drove around as slowly as I could, you know, well within the limits of the car, just to make sure it got the... No, of course, that's the time you got to make the lap times, and I'd actually been saving fuel at the start of the race, and I was hoping it wasn't going to break down, because at that stage I was going very slowly, and I was behind Barrichello, and the Italian press, if I had broken down then, would have murdered me. But, you know, I just had to save fuel and try and save the brakes, and that's what I was doing. And then I started pushing and pushing. Then when Barrichello went in, that's when I really put the hammer down, and that's what got us ahead of DC.
Now, towards the end, David was closing right up on you, and we saw some smoke in the TV pictures. Was there a problem?
Probably coming from my brain. It was it was overloading with, you know, because with problems with the brakes, and the car was just understeering like a pig. Really, on the second set of tires, and I was just struggling to do lap times, and then it started to get a bit better. But we still had the brake problems, so I had to ease off, and DC caught me a bit too quick, so then I had to start pushing down and just forget about the brakes.
Thanks, Eddie. David, congratulations on second place, but a controversial first lap. Perhaps you could talk us through it.
Well, obviously this is my nightmare scenario. Not only have I taken my teammate off at the start, I've you know, finished second to a Ferrari. So obviously I'm very sorry for running into Mika, but I misjudged that corner. And then the rest of the race was just a case, I guess, of Eddie being quicker on those last few laps after the stop.
Did you know Eddie was quicker then? Was the team telling you to go faster, and were you just constrained by weight or something?
Well, I knew just before my stop that I was starting to lose a little bit of time in traffic, and I lost, I think, 2.5 seconds behind Zanardi driving slowly around the middle of turn 6, and I had to run wide offline there. I nearly went off the circuit, so it just came at the wrong time, and obviously that was crucial time for staying in front of Eddie.
And in those last few laps you closed up, did you think you had a realistic chance of passing if you had got close enough?
You've got to believe there's always going to be a way through somewhere. If you can get there and if someone makes a mistake, then there's always a chance of getting through.
Dave, thank you. Mika, a fantastic drive from very disappointing circumstances. You're dead last, you come third. Well done, talk us through it.
Well, you don't really expect me to tell from the start to finish, you know, otherwise we need a couple hour program, but you know, it was after all, the end of the day result was acceptable, you know, like I said before the race, to come here to score points was important, and we did that. Whatever happens in the first corner, second corner, that's not now important at the moment in this situation, but you know, generally overtaking again other cars, racing against other drivers was again very enjoyable. I think the organization here in Austria did a good job in terms of blue flags, so it made the racing extremely interesting for me.
Now, Mickey, you say the second corner doesn't matter, but do you feel you've lost 6 points or gained 4?
It matters, of course, but there's no point now to start explaining it.
Mickey, thank you. Eddie, you're now just 2 points behind Mickey in the World Championship, and obviously established yourself as a very credible Ferrari team leader. Going on to Hockenheim, is low downforce something that's going to suit the Ferrari?
Well, I think we did a test at Monza, and we made very, very big steps forward there. You know, very surprised how much time we found. So Hockenheim, you know, is a different circuit from Monza, but these guys, we know they're going to be quick wherever they go. But as you've seen today, we can beat them even though they're that little bit quicker.
Thank you, gentlemen. And now, Mika, a word in finish, please.
Oikeastaan tekisi mieli antaa kommentteja aika lyhkäisesti, eli et ihan pipariksi meni. Et siitä mihin tarkoitus oli, niin oli tarkoitus hakea ne maksimaaliset pointsit täältä näin, ja tämä sijoitus, 3. sijoitus on todellinen pettymys tietysti. Mutta niin tilanne voisi olla paljon pahempi, kun voisi olla se jossakin tuolla hiekassa ei jäänyt jumiin sinne, niin eikä olisi saanut mitään pisteitä, joten mä oon ihan tyytyväinen olla 3. Et tietysti tässä on hieman keskusteltavaa vielä erään henkilön kanssa, voitte kuvitella, mutta se ei tule muuttamaan tilannetta miksikään. Elämä jatkuu ja työ jatkuu ja tässä on jaksettava ja kestettävä ja oltava erittäin keskittynyt loppukauteen. Jokainen piste on tärkeä, niin kuin nähtiin jo viime vuonna, eli jatketaan. Kiitos.
Thank you, everyone. Congratulations.